Hello, I'm Santag, and here today I'm going to be showing you the small balloons upgrade. Before we show off small balloons, though, I want to show off big balloons, and there's a good reason for that, because small balloons is actually a bug fix. There used to be a little bug with big balloons, where if you had a save, these rather large Moabs would become very small. So with this update, NK have fixed that bug, and instead replaced it with a new Easter egg. The new Easter egg is found by getting a BMA, which is this little alchemist here, and he has to shrink 1,000,000 balloons. No, that's the wrong path. Bottom path, thank you. He has to shrink 1,000,000 balloons before round 100 on any game mode. It doesn't really matter which one you pick. Log's easy difficulty, obviously, what you want to be going for here. We don't know if you can use powers or not. Recommendation, probably not. If you want him to pop 1,000,000 balloons before round 100, you're going to need to buff him with a few things. We've got things like Homeland Defense is quite good. Engineer's got his overclock as well. And of course, if you get an Energizer, you can get quicker cooldowns for Homeland Defense. So this little dude, he's actually quite awkward to work with. He's not very good for chimps because he doesn't give any money. So he just shrinks balloons. The cash doesn't go up at all. We get $1 for anything. It could be a ZOMG. But he'll always give you $1. Or less, actually, if you've got higher rounds. These little red balloons are worth less than $1 each. Yeah, that's the idea anyway. This dude, 1,000,000 balloons. Right, so now onto the run for this here. We're going to be using big balloons for a little bit of irony. And obviously we're going to be on easy difficulty of logs. It doesn't matter which difficulty you're on, and you can go into Freeplay to get this unlocked. To start off, we're going to place an alchemist. We're going to want him... It doesn't really matter because he's BMA. We're going to get an engineer as well. I want the engineer to overclock, but I don't want it popping any balloons. I need to try and get 1,000,000 on our BMA, so I'm going to get him out of the way. We're going to cross path 240 to help in the early game, because the alchemist on his own is not very good. And we can't get a BMA before we have a significant amount of farm, so we'll get no income. So that's what I'm going to save up for next. I'm going to get a bike factory later on for perma spike, although it has been nerfed. If you get a overclock, you can make it as good as it used to be again, which is a bit of a shame because it makes it, well, price has been put up and you need an overclock, so it's almost twice as expensive now. I don't really think it's worthwhile going for, but in this case it will be helpful in case our Balloon Master Alchemist is too slow at throwing his potions. And of course we're going to be getting some banks to save up for everything quickly. Because the earlier you get this guy shrinking things, the better. Another thing to point out as well, it's 1,000,000 balloons shrunk and not 1,000,000 balloons popped. So probably going to move him up the back when I give him BMA. I don't want him popping balloons unnecessarily. That's for the opinion on the engineer here. It's quite interesting. I like the bottom path quite a lot. Definitely for quick free play past round 100, it's really useful. Quite similar to the Pirate Lord, it doesn't care how big the balloon is with the scaling after round 100, it still takes a full ZOMG And the Pirate Lord, of course, takes 3 at a time, which is very useful. Middle path can permanently triple the attack speed of something, so that's going to be useful as well. Offsetting the changes, you might get to 300 again with a Vengeful. And the new XX... is it 3Xs? Yeah, the Triple XL Trap. Haven't quite unlocked his Ultra Boost yet, hoping to get that while I'm saving up my BMA. Second farm. In terms of the number of farms here, I need quite a lot because I need a homeland defense, an overclock, and I also need the perma spike and a second overclock because I need them both to be charged up all the time. In fact, I think while I'm waiting, I'll just get rid of this dude. I want the engineer to pop stuff. Get a spike factory at the back instead. This deconstruction upgrade here, a lot of people are wondering what it's for. It's actually quite good for cross-pathing with the double gun, because you get 2 sets of the extra Moab damage. It's very helpful. But on its own, it's not very useful. We do, of course, get cleansing foam. That's quite helpful for... Actually, it's really helpful right around now for camo balloons and leads. You can't pop them by default. One thing I was a bit disappointed with Engineer, though, is they haven't fixed his randomness with this foam stuff. He still flings it everywhere, which is a bit annoying. I was hoping for some sort of targeting with that. Although one thing that has changed is that apparently, I'm not sure if it's true or not, this cleansing foam decamoises DDTs, which I'll be checking out at the end of the video to see if that's nonsense or not. Oh, hello. Engineer struggling a bit with all those balloons. Might get his friend a bit early. As the foam itself, it's each individual bit of foam does seem to be getting a lot more balloons at once, whereas it used to only get a couple. It's now handily getting rid of everything. It's also getting rid of regrow, which I think's new. Yeah, it gets rid of regrow now. Interesting. Hopefully going to be getting our first bank in a minute here. Ideal goal is BMA before round 50. Oh, hello. Spike Factory looks like it's going to need a hand. Hopefully we don't leak anything. Well, these engineers are good. They do struggle quite a lot with thick clustered waves. Definitely early game. Well, I do see it being useful for chimps mode. Starting off, they are very good value for money. As for whether or not they're going to replace Dart Monkeys, I'm not sure. Not for all maps, anyway. They're a bit too expensive for something like Ouch. Not going to be able to get enough of them. But these sentries are definitely good value for money. As for the bank, its nerf has been pretty brutal. Not entirely sure if it's actually worth having them anymore. I'm going to have to check that out later as well. I am thinking it's probably going to be marketplaces with this update rather than banks, but just for the sake of a little bit less hassle, and have some banks. Oh, that's a lot of balloons. Please don't leak. Oh dear. Can they all go through? Well, actually, I see a rainbow in there. Nah. I guess engineers aren't quite as good as I was expecting. It's a bit disappointing. I was hoping they'd be fine. Don't really think any of this is going to be any use. Now, what's cheap? You know what? I'll have that snow. Get our alchemist down as well. That should do. Yeah, I was not expecting that. Overestimated the power of our little engineers. Bit of a shame, actually. And of course the Moab's sorted, because these sentries are very good against a Moab. As for the balloons that come out of it, the Spike Factory's got us covered. And now it's time for Freeplay. These things are really slow, aren't they? It's the executive decision here, we're going for marketplaces instead. Those things are absolutely hopeless. It said on the patch notes it had only taken $10 off of it per round, which doesn't seem like much, but they're definitely not losing just $10 a round. Their interest seems to have been nerfed quite heavily as well. Not entirely sure it's worth having these. Engineers are already struggling again, that's a bit of a shame. What else is there? Ah. There you go, that'll sort our problem out. No more balloons. And it'd be just as well to get the village down as well.